to the Childhood Cancer Perspective. Thank you so much for sticking with me through all of these episodes through our first season and now getting into season two. Today, I want to talk about something that I've been seeing a lot of, and also a lot of memories have popped up for us. Facebook is one of those things where we get to see a lot of the things that we went through with JC's journey, or shit show, if you want to call that, from the past episode. A lot of those images that pop up are images of going through treatments or going through the diagnosis, being at home with your family, being having good days, having bad days, and showing the either the decline or showing the changes in a child that's going through cancer. It's very noticeable, and it's something that will stick with you forever, something that you can't unsee, something that will be part of you no matter what direct or indirect connection you have to pediatric cancer. It's always going to be something that will be on your mind. But there are certain things out there that when you see the images of them, you don't really know how to react. Now, I posted an image on social media the other day, and it was an image of all the machines that JC was hooked up to at one time. And there must have been a dozen that were just, it had all different types of medications, different timings, all going through her tubes and wires when she was in her treatment in Milwaukee for the stem cell transplant. And I just remember, first of all, how incredibly annoyed she was with that stay, with the fact that the machines would get air bubbles, the machines would stop, the medication would run low, whatever would happen, and the thing would start beeping and making noise, and it was just a terrible thing. And to this day, I can't listen to those machines beeping. So if we have friends or family or things like that that are in the hospital and we can hear those machines, I can't listen to it. I have to walk away, because I know how incredibly upsetting it was to JC when she was going through this. So I have these images, and I posted this image, and I said, this is the reality of so many warriors out there today that have to go through this um, this battle, and they have to do it all the while thinking that everything is okay with a smile on their face. And these damn machines, this is the image that they see, these machines, these blinking lights, these beeping, all these wires and tubes, this is their life. And you on the outside see just the images of this and think, holy hell, it is an absolute. I remember a comment that I got one time was that, holy hell, it's an OCD nightmare, because the amount of cords and wires that were coming out of this machine would just blow your mind. And it would, how they don't get tangled and screwed up, beyond me. But those images of that part of the treatment is often very, it makes it seem a lot more real to people. When you say you're going in for treatments, they're going in for chemo, they're going in for a blood transfusion, or just for fluids or whatever. You don't really, you think about an IV bag hanging from a pole. You think about, maybe they'll get medicine in a syringe or something like that. You don't really associate uh, the amount of effort and work, and that these machines are a part of that treatment. Like, you just don't associate that much. And the way these machines are set up, the way these things are set up, is it is essentially like a set of Lincoln logs. You can just continue to add to the damn thing and continue to grow it, and out to as many medications as you need. And at one point she had, like I said, like a dozen different of these machines, plus she had a machine that was pushing her morphine. And it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming. And that image alone, it really just says so much as to what these kids are going through. Um, but a lot of imagery on Facebook or TikTok or Instagram, things like that, a lot of imagery isn't shared. Sometimes people, I mean, we were as a family very open with the imagery that we shared about JC. There were some things that we did not, some things we did not expose the rest of the world to. There are friends and family we did not expose them to. So if you're listening, yes, there are images that are captured, and it's not for some morbid, reasoning. It's because this is part of what your life is, and part of, what the kid or your child was going through, what your family was going through. and you capture these images, not as a way because you want to remember it, but because you want to remember the fight. You want to remember, the good things that came out of it. And so, yes, there are some images that we have never shared with anybody. Even our closest friends and family have not seen them. People actually outside of this house have never seen them. Even I don't even know if some of the images I've shown um, my girls. And a lot of this imagery doesn't get shared because people are fearful of what others are going to think. Whether they, again, they think it's some kind of morbid curiosity. Why would you take these pictures? Um, and that'll lead me to my final segment on this episode today. But it's not about some morbid curiosity. It's not about what picture can I take that has the the worst thing imaginable, and how can I share this with people without being made to feel like I'm doing it for some type of sympathy or some type of outreach or some type of whatever. That's not what it's about. When we have we have all these images and pictures that we've taken along the way from the first day we were in the hospital when she was just miserable to after certain procedures were done and she was smiling but she still had all these tubes. We have images of when her hair was braided because it was so cool that it was done when she was in the hospital having her first surgery, that the nurse actually braided her hair for her and they didn't shave her entire head to do a surgery. We have images of her waking up and looking extremely puffy. We have images of her sleeping. And then there are some more hard hitting, really tear you down type of images that we have that may have also been because my wife and I had to do a lot of these inpatient type things as tandem. We weren't with each other because there wasn't a way for us to both be there. We have two other children that we needed to care for, restrictions because of COVID. So a lot of these images were, hey, I'm going to take this picture. I'm going to show you what it looks like. She just got out of surgery. I'm going to show you how she is. She wants to say hi to you. And there were times when she didn't look the greatest, when she looked bad, or um, when her incisions didn't look good, or things like that. There's a lot there, and imagery is so powerful, especially in this space, because it gives you a sense of being right there in the thick of it, and not while not actually having to embrace what us as parents and these children are going through. Um, you know, if we've this is one of those things that's been um, really debated for a long time, because for a while we would share images or share videos of JC going through things, and we would share, maybe you'd share an image of things that were a little bit rough, not gory or not anything like that, but would look, you could tell that she was going through a rough time or something like that. And, putting it on certain social media, and it would get taken down. It would get pulled because it was too graphic. And, to us, it was just real life. And it was a matter of, this is us showing you exactly what pediatric cancer is, exactly what it does to your body, exactly what it does to your insides and your outsides. And the fact that it would get taken down is just further proof that we need more awareness around this disease, because far too many people, we feel like we're censored, we feel like we're silenced, and nobody wants to hear us. Or you want to just continue to live under a rock and assume that nothing bad ever happens to kids. These kids aren't going through anything that bad, so why should we continue to talk about it? We can't be sharing images of our kids that have tubes in their chest and their stomach, and NG tubes in their nose, or kids that have IVs and machines, or even more detrimental imagery of of actual incisions or of blood or things like that. That, yes, it can be gory and it can be triggering to some people, but for us it was just real life. It was just everyday life, something that we were dealing with every single day. There's a lot of things that we have imagery of in our head, but not physically on paper, not physically in print. And that's not something that was done, or that is something actually that was done on purpose. These are certain things that we did not need to capture on film, certain things that we did not need to put into a hard print object that is tangible and we could put our hands on. This is something that is in our brains and something that we're going to see every single day when we close our eyes or when we walk past her room or when a date comes up. Our daughter's, her birthday is coming up. Her birthday is coming up on Valentine's Day. And, to really put that into perspective, you know, we have gone through and seen other families go through what we're going through after JC passed, and it's the images that you have in your head or that you see on Facebook or on Instagram or on TikTok or whatever. Those images bring about feelings of sometimes it's guilt. I know survivor's guilt is a big thing. Also, the guilt of not making more memories that you can put into print. The guilt of missing something, but also that you couldn't fix it. Your daughter passed, and you've been fighting so hard, and you could not fix it before somebody else had to meet the same fate. But that the whole point of this is that these images are our life. We feel it, we see it, we hear it, we smell it every single day. And it's not something that we can run away from. It's not something that we can change. Much like something that you don't want to watch on TV or listen to on the radio or read in the paper, you can change the channel. You can turn the dial, you can flip the page. These are images, even if the print ones are ones we don't want to see, the images in our brain are always going to be there and we cannot turn it off. That's the difference. The difference is that the rest of America, or the rest of the world, that is not going through a pediatric cancer diagnosis, that is not going through the treatments and the therapies and the driving and the travel and the sickness and the side effects, those that are not going through it get to change the channel. They get to walk away. They get to turn the other way. We don't. We don't ever get to turn that off. We don't ever get to just be done with it. That will always be part of us. And so the one thing that has been coming up a lot lately, which is actually it's very sad. It pushes me to want to do something sooner, try to find a way to make something happen because I don't want to see it anymore. And that is pictures of the final moments of your child's life. When JC passed, my wife and I were with her. Our daughters had gone to their rooms because it was too much. My wife and I were with her. I had my head on her chest when her heart stopped. My wife held her for the longest time afterwards. We changed her into a different outfit. There are images of both of us with her. There are images that we've never shared with anybody of her final moments and the moments after she passed. There are images, the only ones that the public has ever seen is that of us holding, my wife and I both holding her hands. That's it. And us taking these pictures was not something like, hey, we need to have a reminder of July 3rd, 2021, 4:15 a.m. We need to have we just need to have a good reminder of this. No. That's it could not be farther from the truth. It's not about having a reminder. It's not about wanting to remember a moment like that. It's not about this is when we lost our daughter. Really, I think it is about taking that moment in time, and even though it is the worst moment of your life, it is the absolute worst feeling that as a parent you will ever feel. There is nothing worse than watching your child pass away. There is nothing worse than hearing their heart stop beating. to listening to their breath stop and realizing at that moment that those beautiful eyes will never open again. Realizing at that moment that that is the last time that your child will ever sleep in their bed. Realizing that's the last time you'll be able to sleep next to them. Realizing that just hours and days before, you guys were laying in the bed, you guys were watching TV, you were having a conversation. She was just being herself as much as she could be. And it's not about remembering that moment as something great or something that you want to put in a photo album. It's about realizing that is the moment that your life will be different forever. It is about realizing that that moment was the moment that you knew that she was going to be okay. Now, there is no place in this world that I feel like, and I think our family would say the same thing, there's no place in this world that I think that the child needs to be except for with you. So there is a lot that goes around that is said after a child passes. Well, they're in a better place. They're no longer in pain anymore. You know they're where they need to be. No, they're not where they need to be. Where they need to be is with you as a parent, watching them grow up, watching them make mistakes, watching them do things that they they're going to do, but they shouldn't do. Watching them, find somebody to fall in love with. Watching them find a job, lose a job, learn to drive, graduate high school. They're supposed to be doing all these things, and you're supposed to be capturing those moments on film. You're supposed to be capturing that imagery on film. Your final pictures of your child as a child should be on their 18th birthday. When they become an adult, they're still your babies, but they've become an adult, and then you start a new section. Then it's their adult life, it's their family life, it's their college life. You start a whole new photo album. But see, too many families out there, our photo albums ended way too soon. JC's photo album ended when she was 8 years old. Her photo album ended while she was laying in bed. JC's photo album ended when her heart stopped because her body just could not take any more that was being done to it to try to save her life. JC should be 11 years old this year. She should be 11 years old in a month, celebrating her birthday with her sisters and her friends at Build-A-Bear or wherever. And yet the last imagery that we have of JC is her laying in bed with her mother and I holding her hand. This is something that should not be. And far too often we share these images of what's going on in our life, not to gain attention, not for sympathy, not for views, not for clout. We're not sharing it like that. We're sharing it because this is the real 100% story, the real life truth of what pediatric cancer is. It is a fucking horrible disease that ravages the body. And even if they survive the cancer, their bodies are ravaged by what the treatments did to them. And 95% of them are going to have lifelong problems, lifelong after effects and side effects of the treatments alone. JC's photo album ended way too early, at age 8. And now we've seen others that have ended as well. other photo albums that end way too early. And so we added images to those books from the day that they were born till the day that they passed. And we should never have to do that. And we share these stories and we share these pictures as a way to let you know that their life was and is important. What they did in their short amount of time on this earth is nothing short of incredible. And what these warriors that are going through this now, that are surviving it, their photo albums should not have to end. Their photo albums should continue till they're 18 and you start a new chapter. Till they're starting a family, you start a new chapter, a new job, a new house. All of these things are supposed to be captured in a photo album, on your camera roll, on your phone. They're all supposed to be captured and shared, and they're supposed to be the best moments. But unfortunately, a lot of the times we capture the worst moments on film. And the worst moments tell a story. It's not a fun story. It's not an exciting story. It's not a story that anybody really wants to be a part of. But it's a story. And it's ours. And it's so many others. All too often, we are shamed, in a sense, for sharing these images, for showing what we go through on a daily basis, for showing what real life is for so many families. And every single year in the U.S., every single year, 1,800 photo albums are going to end. 1,800 photo albums are going to end way before they should. 1,800 photo albums are going to have empty pages. And seeing these images, seeing these pictures, is something that has to happen, because you need to understand how real it is, and how real it is to the people that are posting them, how real it is to the people that are taking the time out of their day to share these, because I'm not sharing them for fun. I have many images on my phone that I've taken, some of which I will never share. I will never share. Some of them because they are gruesome. Some of them because they are just too private and we do not wish to share them with anybody else but the people that live in this house. And some of them because it just doesn't make sense to share them. However, at the same time, it is a part of society that seeing the worst, although it brings out a curiosity in people, it can also have another effect in bringing out people that just want to understand. So I'm still trying to figure out, and our family is still trying to figure out what that line is. What line do you cross just to get people to listen? What line do you cross before it becomes too much? I don't know what that is. I don't know what the answer is. Hopefully one day, just the stories and the pictures of these children's beautiful faces will be enough for people to understand how precious life is. And we won't have to resort to sharing images that will floor you. Sharing images that will bring you to your knees. It's not about shock value. These are real children. These are real people. They deserve to have their stories told. They deserve to have their photo albums finished. They deserve to have a voice. And while I don't want to have to show images of our daughter going through the worst times of her life that may be offensive to some people, unfortunately, sometimes being uncomfortable is the best way to make people learn. Being uncomfortable is what's going to get people to listen to you. And maybe that's what's going to have to happen one day. But I think for me, and I think for our family, and I think for other families as well, but I think for our family, I think I'll wait for a sign from JC at some point to let me know that it's okay to share images that up until now we have kept private, that we have kept away from the public because we did not feel like they needed to see the things that we've seen. However, people need to understand how important and how serious this is. Because if you don't, far too many albums will close way too early. Far too many stories will end. Far too many parents will have to speak into their child's ears as they're taking their last breaths and say, it's okay. It's okay to let go. Or as my wife said, it's okay to chase those rainbows, JC. It's okay to chase them. We're going to be okay here. And we know you're going to be okay too. Those words to say to a child that you've cared for 8 years. To say it's okay to let go and go be in heaven and not be here are the hardest things I've ever had to listen to somebody say. Your daughter has cancer. There's nothing more we can do. She's probably going to code on the way home. Do you want us to resuscitate her? All of these things will break you. But actually being in that moment and in your heart and in your mind and in your eyes and in your soul, knowing exactly what's happening and telling your 8-year-old daughter, it's okay. I know you're fighting. I know you can hear me. I know you're here with me. And it's okay for you to let go. We're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. To hear those words, there is no way to make that ever leave your head. And the images that we have of those final moments, the images that we have of JC moments after she passed, they weren't for vanity. They're not hanging on the wall somewhere. They weren't for something to remember the moment. Those were our last moments with our daughter. The last time we got to hear her breathe or her heartbeat. The last times her hands felt warm. The last time that we would ever close our eyes in this house or open them again and she would be here. The last spoken words to her before she was pronounced. It's okay to chase rainbows. You keep chasing those rainbows, JC. We love you. Our daughter put up one hell of a fight. And the images I have of her and that we have in those moments are of a warrior. Those images are someone so strong that I will never come across another person in my life that is that strong, that is that powerful, that is that incredible, determined, that is that genuine. Those images are what we have aside from what's in our head and what will never go away and what we can't turn off and the pages we can't turn, those images are what we have. Those images ended her photo album. And far too many photo albums end like this. And far too many of these images are coming across Facebook and Instagram and TikTok of these children that are taking their last breaths, of these children that are passing away in their parents' arms with their family surrounding them, knowing what's going to happen. Far too many images of hands that will never squeeze their parents' hands again, eyes that will never open again, feet that will never walk again. These images are cruel, and these images are triggering, and these images may upset the delicate psyche of far too many people out there that think that we're doing it for clout and doing it for attention. We're doing it because you need to see the truth. And if you don't want to see it, then you're actively trying to be blind to the fact that we have a problem and we need to fix it. Pediatric cancer is not a joke. Pediatric cancer is a motherfucker. Pediatric cancer destroys the body. And even if they survive that cancer, the treatments will leave lifelong side effects that are sometimes often worse than the cancer itself. Our children need better options. Our children need better funding. Our children need better awareness. So I appreciate everybody listening to this podcast and sticking with me. But I want you to understand something. If somebody out there actively gets offended by a picture of your child going through cancer treatments or looking bad, looking rough, looking like what these treatments do to them, then they are actively trying to keep it from being spread to the world. And they don't truly give a shit about what's going on. They just don't want to see something sad. I hope that this podcast becomes something that people can relate to, something that people can understand and can and see what I'm trying to say. But as always, if you don't, or if you feel like you want to comment, I'm open to it. Let's have a debate. At some point, I will have guests on this show. One of these days, I will have my daughter back in here. Schedules are very difficult to line up right now, but I will have my daughter with us, and I will be able to share that story. I will have Tim come in here, who is our director of social media for Battle Corn. I will have him come in and speak about his connection, which is an indirect connection to the pediatric cancer world, but he has a direct connection to cancer, and I want him to share why it is that he decided to get involved with our organization, why it is he decided to get involved with cancer in general, with awareness and things like that. So that's something that's going to be coming. So Tim, if you're listening, you're up next, buddy. We're going to get a time where you can get in here, get in the studio, and let's record an episode. Everybody out there, thank you so much for sticking with me. I will see you next week for a brand new episode of the Childhood Cancer Perspective. Thank you, guys.